In this video, I'm going to be ranking my top bass preamp pedals. Hey guys, I'm Tyler. Thank you for tuning back into the channel once again. If you're new around here, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe and hit that notification bell to keep updated with the channel. In this video, I'm going to be talking about 13 of the bass preamp pedals that I've used and ranking them in a tier list. Now, there are hundreds of preamp pedals on the market. It seemed like it kind of got through to the mid 2010s and everyone had to have a bass preamp pedal. Everyone had moved away from taking out massive bass rigs, and suddenly everyone was expected to bring a preamp pedal to a gig and nothing else. You had your preamp pedal on your pedal board and just ran it into the PA. And I think for a lot of gigs, particularly if you're in London, places like that, some of those big cities not always now have a backline, and there is a kind of expectation that the PA is good enough to run your stuff through it. But even on big gigs, I know I've played big gigs where the amp's so far away from me at the front of the stage and I'm tied there with a microphone that actually having a really great sound coming through that PA is much more useful. So in this video I'm going to run you through 13 of the preamp pedals that I've used. I know there are going to be loads that I've missed, and let me know in the comments your favourite ones and ones that you think people should check out, because like I say, it kind of exploded as a market, and I haven't used all of them. I haven't used tons of them, but the ones I have used I've had a kind of good opinion of and used in a number of different situations. So I'm going to run you through that. As I say, there are 13 different ones, and I'm going to rank them from D to S, S being the best. I know it's a bit confusing because it's red. Someone's commented that in the comments before, but yeah, S is the best, and D is the worst, kind of like a school kind of ranking. I guess S is super or spectacular or something. But yeah, I'm going to run you through these 13 different preamps, a few of the different features, why I like them, why I don't like them, and as I say, leave me your favourite ones in the comments below. So let's start out with this list. And first I am going to go with the Ampeg Classic preamp pedal as a D. Not a bad preamp pedal at all. I used it in a pinch when my SCR-DI died just before I was flying to Italy for a show. Got Amazon Prime to deliver it to me really speedily, and took it out and used it. And it definitely got me out of a tricky situation because, as it turned out, the guys that were arranging it hadn't brought the amp. So I was completely just straight into the front of house, and I was really glad to have that. Some element of being able to change the tone, but it is quite a bland sounding preamp. It gives you a little bit of the Ampeg EQ shape, but for the Ampeg sound you kind of need a bit more of the grit and the fur and the harmonic distortion elements, and those things don't really come from this pedal. It's pretty much just an EQ pedal. A reasonable sounding one. The knobs are a little bit flimsy on it, and it doesn't have an XLR out, so I ran it from the jack out into another DI. So it's okay, it does a job, quite cheap, well built in terms of the construction and the housing, but these knobs are a bit rubbish. So that goes into D for me. For me, I think that's probably the only D on the list. So I'm going to move through to the MXR. I think the MXR M81. This pedal is, again, a bit like the Ampeg. I think it does sound a little bit better. It's better built. You have an XLR out. Not used it too extensively, but I didn't really dig it when I have tried it, when I have used it. But like I say, a bit more versatile, better built than the Ampeg. A better range of sounds, I think. But nothing too exciting for me on that one either. And then I'm also going to put the MXR M80 Plus in there for the same kind of reasons. A bit more versatile. You have that different distortion circuit, but I don't think the distortion sounds great on it. I don't think it's an exciting overdrive circuit. More versatile, as I say, but similar thing that just never really grabbed me. Nothing, doesn't really enhance the tone in a way that I think some of these other preamp pedals do. Some of these preamp pedals are a real colour. They really add something different to your tone and body. And the MXRs don't for me. They are kind of a bit more clinical. If you want something a little kind of very simple and just to do basic EQ, I think the MXRs are really good for that. Next, I'm going to put the Sansamp Bass Driver Deluxe on there. Now, this is one of the first pedals that I had For me, I didn't really gravitate towards it. It's slightly confusing in that it's a digitally controlled analog pedal. A lot of the Tech 21 stuff is. So it recalls all of the settings digitally, but you can't tell what those are. So you set it once and kind of forget it, and then you have 3 different tones. I never really loved the way it sounded, never found anything that I really needed from it. It's also a really, really big preamp pedal. And it has the effects loop things, and you can do different channels of effects loop and all sorts of, it does a whole variety of things, but I really feel like they'd be better served being in a digital domain with a screen. And by having them on this massive pedal with 4 different buttons, I just didn't really work for me. It just felt like it was all kind of hidden behind something. And the idea that you had to have 3 presets and kind of set and forget it, again, didn't work for me either. So that's going to go into the C category as well. Next is the Fender Downtown Express. Another pedal that I'm not too excited about in general. I did review this for the Guitar Center a while ago. And it is a versatile pedal. It does have everything you need on board, which I do like. I do like the fact that there is a compressor on board, distortion, and your EQ section. And you do also have kind of a range of switches you can run the compression before or after the distortion. But the thing for me was the compressor, really. I really wanted to love that compressor. And it didn't really do what I wanted it to do. It either clamped down really hard or didn't really add enough to the sound at all. For me, it was too squished, and that was kind of the only option you really had. Again, the EQ shape wasn't particularly exciting. I wanted it to be more like a Fender Bassman in tone, and it didn't quite do that for me. And the overdrive distortion circuit is quite nice. That was the one thing that I did like about the pedal, was it's got a certain overdrive to it, which is, I think, quite a versatile tone. I think overall the Fender is a very versatile pedal, and if you want to tweak it and get the EQ settings to how you like them and kind of have that as your sound, it can work, and you can use it in different contexts. But overall, I think it's on the cheaper end of the preamp pedal market, and it doesn't quite manage to do it for me on any of those settings. Now into the B level pedals. So first I'm going to put in the Dark Glass Vintage Modern Deluxe, VMT Deluxe. This pedal was one of the pedals I tried out when they first came out, so it was kind of the version 1, I think. I know they've tweaked it since, and it's a little bit more versatile in the EQ, but I thought this pedal, it was between this and the B7K. I ended up going with the B7K simply because I felt like this pedal was kind of like the early settings on the B7K. There is a little bit of a tonal difference. The VMT is a bit warmer and rounder, but I felt from a distortion perspective, which was primarily what I was looking for, they could be quite similar if you just had the B7K on its kind of lower end of the gain distortion knob. So for that reason, I kind of put it as a B. Very well built pedals. They are good sounding pedals, no doubt, and they are pro level pieces of kit. But yeah, for me, it's just a B. Next, I'm going to put in the Bass Driver DI. This is an absolute classic pedal from SoundsAmp. Simpler to use than the deluxe version, and I think that really benefits it. Things I don't like about it are the fact that you've only got treble and a bass control and no mid-range, and I think that's a little bit difficult. And then you have a presence knob on top of that. The idea, I think, is primarily to blend in your tone and just add this as kind of more of a harmonic saturator rather than an entire EQ shaping amp in a box type device. But I did use one of these at Real World Studios. They kind of set that up for me as their kind of standard bass chain, and plugged into that and did get some good results with it. So definitely a useful tool and an absolute classic for a reason, but I do think there are better options nowadays. I'm also going to put the Ampeg SCR-DI in this category. Much better than the preamp on its own. It also has the added scrambler overdrive option, which I think is kind of needed to give it a little bit of that Ampegginess. Even if you run it very lightly, you do get some of that more Ampeg sound, and I quite enjoyed just the sound of it in general. Very solidly built, this pedal, again, good housing, and the knobs kind of the same, unfortunately, as the classic preamp. But I think the fact that it's a bit bigger and has more body to protect it and protect the knobs from any damage really helps. Good number of features. It doesn't do as much as the Fender, but I just think it sounds better. For me, I'm more of that kind of Ampeg tone in my head kind of guy anyway. And I think it does replicate more of the amplifiers. And quite often that's what I want with the preamp pedal. I want the colour of that brand. So the Ampeg SCR-DI goes into the B category. Next is the Aguilar Tone Hammer DI. Tough one with me because I do like Aguilar stuff. And I think this is a good, classy sounding preamp pedal. It's definitely a top-notch piece of gear. But I think there are things like the fact that the preamp, the drive, when you add the AGS circuit in, isn't really controllable in volume. Makes it really difficult to use. There's tons of stuff on the internet about this being a bit of a repeated issue. It is a good sounding preamp, and I like the EQ. Quite similar to Sadowski in the way the low end works. Boosts down at 40 Hz, which is really broadband boost. And I really dig that kind of tone. So from that perspective, I really like it. But the pedal element, the distortion element, is just not very well thought out on this pedal. But you could definitely use it into a PA and get very usable tones. And if you are happy to use that AGS on all the time, you can get a really nice, compelling, speaker emulated type of sound, because that AGS circuit does high and low pass the sound. So you are getting that kind of speaker emulation. So running that straight into a PA does really help with that, getting that mic cab kind of tone. Into my A list, first I'm going to put the B7K. As I say, this is all a list of my opinions, and some of these pedals are the ones that I've got and still have. So the B7K lives up here for me because it's pretty much for me as versatile as the VMT, but with a bit more, and it can get dirtier, it can get filthier. I use this as kind of a utility pedal. I can use it as a drive pedal, light drive with a blend, and to have another clean parallel out as well. So this is always sat on my little travel board at the minute. Obviously I haven't been doing much travelling this year, but it does sit on that board, and it's that extra bit of distortion and push into the front of an amp if I need it. And if you want to, you can go all out and make it really filthy sounding, but you can still retain that low end with that blend control, similar to the Sounds app and the VMT. Next is the Sadowski Preamp DI pedal. This pedal is just a great tone enhancing pedal, and sometimes I love a pedal to do that. I think quite often I have a pedal on my board for the fact that it adds a certain tone, a certain quality to my sound and makes my overall tone better. And this is one of those pedals. It's got the clean DI out. You can use it as a really high quality DI, but it's also got that FET EQ circuit in there. You can have a broadband boost on the bottom end at 40 Hz and at the top end around 4K with the treble. And it's just really a fat and tone enhancing pedal that I think really works. I love the Sadowski sound. You know, I've got two Sadowski basses, and there are very few basses that you could run through this that are passive that wouldn't benefit. It's also a great option if you've got a vintage bass and you don't want to damage it, but you do want some active EQ or something to help it cut through a little bit in a mix, or maybe just to have a different kind of sound. Having one of these on your board gives it that kind of active bass sound without having to damage anything about your own bass. And the last pedal on the A section is the VT Bass DI. I really, really like this pedal, and I used it for years as kind of my sole recording amp simulator direct box in the studio. So useful. It kind of did everything I needed it to do. I wanted those Ampeg warm tones, but also you can just get classic fat warm tube tones from it as well. It's adding that harmonic saturation. It's got the speaker emulation button to give you that amp sound. For me, it really did everything that I needed it to do. Unfortunately, nowadays it's kind of suffered from, I had an incident with an intermittent power supply at a rehearsal, and it effectively caused it to be fried. So I can't run it on power. The only way I can run it is via phantom power. But the fact that I can still run it like that is great. You can run it from a PA. You can just turn up with that one pedal, have the PA send you some phantom power, and that's all you need. The mid-range and the EQ on this are really powerful. They go a lot further than you'd expect. And the character knob, I pretty much only ever use it from the kind of what they call fat warm tube, I believe, on the left-hand side of the knob, all the way up to kind of the centre, which I think is a B15. But yeah, Ampeggy type tones, real amp type tones from one box. And as I say, this was my recording DI for such a long time, and that was all I used. And then for me, the ultimate preamp pedal is the HX Stomp. You really just can't beat this pedal. It's my Swiss Army knife. It's always on my board. It does everything and anything I want it to do. If you're travelling with it and you have only one pedal, this is the pedal I'd suggest you take. You can use it as your headphone amp. You want to practice in a hotel room, plug it into a laptop, plug an MP3 player into it. You can do all of that stuff. You can run it straight through, and you've got pretty much unlimited preamps, amp sims, and microphones. So it does everything that all the other pedals on this list do and more. You've got all the EQ options you could need, you've got compressors, you've got all the overdrive sections in those pedals below, and you then have proper amps, or you can split them up. You can run them as just the preamp section from an amp. If you love one preamp section, you can just run that. If you want to have a speaker simulated sound, you can run it with any of the speaker cabs in there, or upload your own IRs like I do with my Aguilar stuff. Really, the options for this pedal are unlimited. All you need is an adapter from XLR to balance jack, and you are sorted. So for me, that is the ultimate preamp pedal. No matter what you're doing, you can't beat that one pedal. So that is my tier list of 13 preamp pedals that I've used and owned. These are all just my own opinions, so I totally expect you guys to be disagreeing, and do that in the comments below. Let me know what your favourite preamp pedal is, and if you agree with any of the rankings and the reasons I gave for each of these preamps and their positions. Don't forget you can follow me on Instagram, and that will be linked below me now. And also head into the description of the video. I'll put links to all of these pedals in there so you can purchase them, and a little bit of that is Amazon affiliate, so it definitely helps me out, helps the channel out, helps it grow if you want to purchase anything through those links. I'm also looking to do some different videos on the lead up to Christmas, so let me know if you have anything that you want me to cover, and I'll try and do that in the next few weeks. Thank you so much for watching this video. I will see you again soon for another bass review and more tier list videos too. And I also got an idea for some more music production based bass related content as well, so keep your eyes peeled for that. And if you want to see that and keep up to date with that, hit that notification bell, hit the subscribe button, and I will see you in the next video.